What is the truth? Let's hear the truth from Jewish scholar and Jewish rabbi.
You all know the story that Abraham had two sons. One was Isaac and one was Ishmael. Now, before I talk about Ishmael, I would like to talk about a little bit about his mother, Hagar, peace be upon her. So, as we know from the story in Genesis, that Abraham in the beginning had only one wife, which was Sarah, which he brought all the way back from Ur-Kasdim when he immigrated to the land of Canaan. And then the Torah says that in the land of Canaan there was a drought, and Abraham was forced to go down to Egypt. And then when coming back from Egypt, it suddenly talks about the handmaid of Sarah, and her name was Hagar. The Torah doesn't describe where she came from, who she was, what she was, where. So, but from the oral Torah, we know some descriptions that are not mentioned in the Torah itself. And the description is that Hagar was actually a princess in Egypt. She was princess related to Pharaoh. She was, I think, even the daughter of Pharaoh, if I'm not mistaken. And when she saw Abraham and Sarah, and she saw how righteous this family was, and that God was, dwelling in their family, so to speak, meaning, that they believed in God, and, she became so impressed, and she was willing to give up her life as a princess and go serve Abraham and Sarah as a maid. That's what the Midrash says. She was on such a level that she was able to, for the sake of being closer to the teachings of God and closer to monotheism, she was able to willingly give up her life as a princess and go join Abraham and his family. And that's what happened. And therefore she was this is how Hagar, peace be upon her, ended up in the family of Abraham, peace be upon him. And then the Torah says that Sarah, our great-great-grandmother, couldn't give birth for a long time, and and she said that to Abraham, maybe you should take my handmaid as a wife, and at least even if I can't have children, at least we'll be able to continue the generations through her children. And that's what happened. She became pregnant, and she gave birth to Ishmael, peace be upon him. Now later on, about 13 years later, Sarah also gave miraculously birth to a son, and she called him Isaac, or in Hebrew Yitzchak, because it comes from the word tzachok. In Hebrew means to laugh, because she said, she said it's really funny that a old woman like myself could give birth, and she laughed about it, and she called him Isaac. Yitzhak. And now, by the way, why was Ishmael named Ishmael? Is because there was also an incident which I didn't mention, but there was an incident, and she got lost in the desert, and she started crying, and God heard her cry, and God told her, "Don't worry, go back to your mistress Sarah, and you will have a child. You will become pregnant. You will have a child, and you will name him Ishmael, because I have heard, God has heard your crying." In Hebrew, Shema means hear, and El means God. Ishmael, God, two words, hear and God, so meaning that God has heard your crying. And that's how Ishmael got the name Ishmael. When he was sent away, and he and his mother got lost in the desert, he started crying, and the mother, went away because she didn't want to see her son suffering, and the angel appeared to her. And by the way, we see from here that Hagar is considered to be a prophet in the Jewish religion, because the Torah clearly says that an angel spoke to Hagar, so that makes her a prophet or prophetess, a female prophet. And anyways, so when the angel told her, do not worry, go back, pick up your son, and I'm going to make him into a great nation. After Sarah passed away, before Abraham passed away, it says that Abraham got himself another wife, and her name was Keturah. That's what the Torah says. But from the oral Torah, we know that this Keturah is actually the same Hagar. He took Hagar back as his wife. And the reason she was named Keturah, it comes from the word Ktorat, incense. That's the sacrifices that Jews used to bring in the temple, incense sacrifice. And our ancestors tell us why her name was changed to Keturah, because her actions were so pleasing to God. That's why her name was Keturah, like incense, like a sacrifice before God. And so eventually, Abraham remarried Keturah, and she had, more children with Abraham, which we don't really know much about them. The name Ishmael, Ishmael is actually from what you can see from Genesis is a Hebrew name, Ishmael, and it's a beautiful name. God has heard, right? And in fact, in the Talmud, there was a rabbi named Ishmael, Rabbi Ishmael. And so this was a name among the Jews, Ishmael. But nowadays, Ishmael, I haven't really heard this name being used among Jews, and I assume it's more of a political, reason, because of the war between Jews and Arabs in Israel, and therefore the Jews are reluctant to name their children Ishmael, I think. But in reality, this is a beautiful name. It's a good connotation. We have good connotations with this name, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with naming his son Ishmael, in my opinion. It could be wrong, but in my opinion, I see absolutely nothing wrong. We see a rabbi in the Talmud was named Ishmael. So anyways, I hope this kind of explains to you the Jewish attitude towards Ishmael and Hagar, peace be upon them both. And they do have respect in our religion. As I've said, they were both righteous, and Hagar was righteous pretty much all the way. Ishmael, and he died as a righteous man, and the sages tell us that he has a place in the world to come, meaning he has a world to come because he was righteous.